Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 873, Roland Garros and World Cup warm-up. Hello, Big Chillians. Welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joins with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Just got back from Nashville. We unfortunately were there or fortunately or unfortunately, I guess how you look at it, the same time as the CMA Fest. So there was about 8 billion people, either men in cowboy boots and cowboy hats or girls in very low-cut jean shorts going down Broadway. It was fucking insanity. Both days we went down to Broadway, it's just a billion people. The lines were insane to get into anywhere. It was crazy.
Yeah, not a city that super appeals to me from a
surprising for a guy who loves
perspective.
his cowboy hat and and cowboy dress.
But that all seems, I like actual Western stuff. Nashville to me seems, I mean, I don't like country. I enjoy country music to a degree. I don't like pop country, and Nashville just appears to have been taken over by like country pop stuff. So, you know,
A lot
I
of
would
the
much
bars
rather
still were playing traditional country.
No,
that
but it's
we
the
went to.
vibe more than the music that's playing. But I would much rather go to Tombstone over Nashville anytime. There's no doubt there.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy trying to get down to Broadway. I will give the city credit. It is pretty insane how consolidated Nashville is. Like, the hockey arena is right on Broadway, like 2 blocks from all the major bars and everything. The football stadium is just across the river. Like if you have to walk the bridge that everyone walks, it's also right there. Like, everything is right there. So when there's something big going on, it is just a cluster. It is a mess. But yeah, being there for a hockey tournament was pretty funny. Everyone was like, "Oh, you're here for CMA Fest?" I was like, "No, we're here for a hockey tournament, actually." But yeah, it was fun. Expensive. I bought the team after our first playoff win. We went out Friday night because we didn't have our next playoff game until Saturday at like 1:30. So we went out to celebrate a little bit, and I bought the team a round of Jaeger bombs. I bought a dozen Jaeger bombs. How much do you think that costs?
Basically $100 I would go for, like $8 a Jaeger bomb.
$187.
Whoa. So, I mean, how much
Whoa is right. That was the only round Frank bought for the team.
So it's like $13 a Jaeger bomb? $14
Like
a
15
Jaeger
almost.
bomb?
Yeah. I will give her credit. I don't know if this was a miscommunication, but they were pretty big Jaeger bomb shots. So I don't know if maybe she gave us double Jaeger bomb shots because it was a healthy chunk of Jaeger. More than I was expecting, but maybe that's just the standard for the shot there. It's like a big shot, and that's why they charge a lot. But yeah, it was quite expensive. I think she did feel bad when I looked at the tab, and because then I looked at my buddy, who was like, "Oof," and she gave us she backed it up with 12 free Jello shots because they also had Jello shots, which were $5 a shot. So I guess she gave us $60 free shots there. But still, that was I was not expecting 187 on the bill. Pre-tip, by the way.
And was she giving you the cans of Red Bull?
No, she was pouring Red Bull in and minimal amounts. She only went through, I'm going to say, 3 cans, maybe 4 for 12 shots, 3 cans. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
also,
I was surprised.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how much people are ordering Jaeger bombs still is one of the questions. Seem to have slightly gone out of fashion. So that might be also the thing hurting you.
Maybe. That could be
That
true.
might have been those might have been like Jaeger bottles that they bought 6 years ago that they're still just trying to get rid of.
Those sounded like World Cup prices.
That I mean, that might also be the thing too, is they're just well, you might get screwed because you happen to be there during a large festival, and maybe they increase prices during that, and then just with a busy summer coming up, they may be increasing prices there as well.
Maybe. But we talked
So,
about, obviously, our complaints about, loud music at bars. Nashville is definitely not the place you go to if you wanna have any amount of conversation with someone at a bar. I mean, there was always live music playing, which I guess that's part of why you're going out to the bars is to go to the live music. So, a little different of a scenario, but still, when it's like 3 in the afternoon and you go down and you wanna chat with someone, it's nearly impossible.
yeah, but live music to me is different. If it's live music, I don't think you can complain about something being too loud. If it's
Problem is you
that's
can't find a bar that doesn't have live music. That's the problem.
but then they would tell you, "Why have you come to Nashville?" Like, I mean, you're sort of missing the point if part of why you're there is not to see music, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I think it's just funny.
So, which of the sporting topics from the weekend should we kick things off with?
Oh, your choice.
So that's just you blanking on what the options could possibly be.
Well, I mean, it could be we can start with Roland Garros, I guess, if you wanna do that quick and talk about, your prodigal son eventually winning his first Grand Slam, almost
Yeah, I mean,
blowing it.
I've had to disown Zverev due to a number of controversies. So I
Unfortunately,
have
you can never disown your son.
yeah, I mean, look, I'll say this about it. I mean, there's a certain satisfaction that came from Zverev finally winning. He's 29 years old, winning a Grand Slam, in part because, I it feels sort of right because I predicted big things for him when he was 16, 17 years old. So it, it only took a decade and a half basically for him to be able to fulfill that minimal potential that was seen then. But yeah, it's just tough. It's a real downer that it's a combination of a tournament where the really big stars either weren't there or got injured or got knocked out. And then you have Zverev, who is just generally kind of unlikable, but then on top of it too has the sexual assault allegations hanging over his head, and it's impossible to ignore. And I think it's bad for tennis, like because the problem is at least in other sports, like at least in football or American football, for the most part, the controversies still get mentioned to a degree. You will have a commentator be brave enough to say like something that you did, whereas in tennis they just pretend that nothing has ever happened to Zverev. I mean, it just for him to play, a 3.5 hour, nearly 4 hour long final, whatever it was, and no one at any point mentioned the fact that not allegations. He basically was found guilty of beating his girlfriend and had to pay a 200,000 euro fine, 150,000 of which went to the government, I believe, and then 50,000 of which went to a charity. He was
None went to
guilty.
her.
No, no, I mean, that was the deal that
That's
she accepted because
yeah,
she stopped pursuing it because she didn't want to be in the public eye anymore. And so that was the outcome that allowed her to still have him be found guilty, but without the case dragging on for any longer. And not a great final either. It fell firmly into the category that I love to discuss of not a good final, but because it went 5 sets. As I always say, like people mistake close games for good games. This was not a particularly good game. Zverev didn't play well for most of it. Neither of them were playing fantastic tennis for large parts of it. Had the slight controversy of Zverev getting medical assistance from his friend Melo, the Brazilian doubles player, who just came down and handed him some pills, which again the commentators kind of just brushed off as saying it's not acceptable, that it's definitely not within the rules, but at the same time, because Zverev is diabetic, they presumed it has something to do with that. But seems kind of weird that you can just be handed pills mid-game by people in your team.
Maybe he has an exemption for sugar pills. Anyone in attendance can hand him sugar pills. Maybe he's got that written into his exemptions.
Maybe, but then at the next change of ends, he then obviously, he did his blood reading to check his insulin levels. You would have thought that's the moment at which you would be getting something. And it was this weird thing. He was kind of stretching his thigh, which was seemed to be troubling him. I don't know if that's diabetic related that you have thigh cramp. That's not one of the symptoms that I've been made most
Is
aware
this
of.
why
But
I've been cramping for so long? I've just been
yeah, yeah.
diabetic.
No, unfortunately for you, the things you have are way worse. but, but yeah, it was just kind of disappointing. But and overall, I think in the women's side of things, I mean, Andreeva winning, she's 19 years old, and she may go on to be one of the biggest players in women's tennis. But it just was sort of a combination of finals that felt like they lacked a little bit of star power.
Yeah, I mean, Zverev didn't really face, I don't think, anyone in the top 10 the entire run.
Well, I mean, if we go based on seedings,
Not on seedings, but on ranking. On ranking.
ranking, he played no one in the top 10.
Yeah.
On seedings, Caboli was 10th. So I suppose Caboli was coming into this 11th in the world with Alcaraz being out. And now Caboli will definitely be firmly in the top 10 as a result of the extra points. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't tested much. He got through to the quarterfinals without playing a seeded player, and then got to play the 27th seed, the 26th seed, and the 10th seed. And this is the thing, it's not his fault, right? But a lot of people making a big deal out of the fact that he finally got over the hump and he's proven himself to be a Grand
Yeah.
Slam winner. And it's true, like it's in the history books. But I don't think he's proven anything to anyone really by going on
No.
this run.
He's proven that he can beat players in the top 20, but like if he had to face players in the top 5, he probably would lose to them.
Yeah. And look, the unfortunate thing for him is you could probably make the argument that Caboli was a harder test than, say, Djokovic would have been in the final after being, let's say, dragged through multiple,
But
4 or 5 setters. But you would have felt like he proved himself more. Because if it had been the same scenario of Djokovic pushing him to a 5th set, you would have really felt like there was never a moment in that match where I felt like Zverev was going to lose, even though in the final, in the 3rd and 4th sets, he was not playing particularly well.
I mean, if we know anything about Zverev, it's the mental aspect of his game can always be an issue. So having someone like Djokovic push him and test him, that alone could break him.
Yeah, I mean, even then, I don't felt like he really passed the test with flying colors because his serve was still pretty iffy, which is the biggest issue he has in those tight moments, and his serve was not great. I'm gonna bring up his serve percentages, but, he was there were he was lucky that Caboli just kind of fell apart in the 5th set and handed it to him, but 3rd consecutive Roland Garros men's final that's gone 5 sets, though. Maybe
So
that's the
maybe it's
bet for the
scripted.
future. Maybe. Although this is the first time that the person winning the 5s well, first time. Out of those 3, Zverev is the first to have been the one sort of ahead in the match who then went on to win. The other two 5-setters have been come from behind victories. But Zverev also 4th time in a Grand Slam final. So improves his record to 1-3. He and Andre Agassi stand alone as players to win their first Grand Slam in their 4th Grand Slam final.
Took Agassi at 4 attempts.
But yeah, no, not great. And on the other side of the things, I'm going to criticize both players a little bit just because in the end, I mean, Andreeva won super easily 6-3, 6-2, but they were both just kept getting broken. And just, I think, I think when they've played 17 games, and those 17 games produced 20 break points. And that does show a degree of parity in a way, I guess, and it's the argument often made for preferring women's tennis is that you don't have kind of serve bots who are just, winning easy points off their serve all the time, but I still like to see people who can hold serve or at least not struggle on their serve consistently, and both of them and I mean, I understand the pressure on both of them was huge, but for different reasons, but, you know, not great. You're looking at Schwalinska, sorry, who I'm definitely not pronouncing her name properly, but she won only 46% of points on her first serve, which is a terrible statistic, and only 20% on her second serve, which is almost not believable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Did see the cool story with her, though, because obviously she came into this ranked whatever it was, 122nd in the world. So she only booked a hotel in Paris for round one. She didn't expect to stay much longer than that and then had to extend her stay. But not only did she have to extend her stay, she actually ran out of money because she
Boy.
didn't come into the tournament with that much in savings. And so having to pay for an extra sort of an unplanned 13 days in a hotel in Paris in the middle of June, she literally got towards the end of her stay and said that she didn't have the money necessary to pay for her hotel.
Why didn't you sublet for her?
Had I known. I mean, in the end, one of her sponsors stepped in and paid on her behalf. So she was okay. And I don't think I'm sure.
It's a pretty quick, like, short-term investment. It's like, if you're doing good enough to make it to this round and we need to pay for it, then on the back end, your winnings from this will be able to instantly reimburse us.
Look, I'm sure if she'd spoken to the hotel manager and said, "Hey, look, I can't pay the bill right now. Like upon checkout, the card is going to be declined. But within the next 4 days, I'm getting 1.5 million euros. So I'll pay it then." I think they probably would be okay with it.
You know what? I'm gonna try that. We're in London next week. I'm gonna tell that when I go to pay the bill, like, "Listen, actually, I'm here for a tournament. I just won it. So just give me a few days and I'm gonna have 1 million hit in the bank. I'll make sure to cover it for you."
I, th- I think the difference is she wasn't making up the being in a tournament and winning lots of money.
I'll just say,
Eh,
"Hey, did you ever hear of Royal Ascot? Well, I could be
I'm a
getting a lot of
jockey.
money from it, so just give me a few days."
Have you ever heard of Frankie Dettori? I'm his stunt double. But yeah, interesting. I mean, it's a nice story. She comes across as extremely charming whenever she's interviewed and seemed like a super nice person. But and it's nice to see underdog stories. I feel bad for her in that you don't want in the end, Andreeva's slightly differently, but this is basically three underdogs kind of making their way to a final. And it's a little harsh on Zverev because he was technically the 2 seed coming into the tournament. But, like a month ago, you would have thought his chances of making the final were reasonably slim. So I don't know. It kind of takes the shine off a little bit of the true underdog achievement because it just feels like there's upsets everywhere. Now, and I'll give you some options. Usually you're firing some options off for me. So actually, you know what? I won't give you an option. I think we have to discuss maybe the saddest news of the weekend or week. It happened yesterday. Christian Eriksen collapsing again during a match. Seems to be okay, fortunately, because he already has a pacemaker or whatever it
The
is that he
defibrillator.
has,
Yeah.
yeah, in his heart. But almost certainly the end of Christian Eriksen's footballing career.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything released since saying that, like, he will not rejoin the team or anything like that.
It's true. There hasn't been firm announcements. And look, I
And
guess it's
and
hard.
and and and, and actually, I would go the opposite and say most people are like, he's fine, like he's great, he seems healthy, he's good to go. It's like almost like what's come out of the camp and like his people.
Well, I will say there's been talk in a way. I do agree with you. Some of the talk has been like, well, because he has the implant, he's basically unkillable by a heart attack. So, like, of all the people out there playing, he's the safest. It's like, I don't think that's quite how that works. But
Well, I didn't know if this is how we would get into this, but I mean, my feeling is, I mean, one, I'm obviously glad he's okay, like, and it's crazy that it's happened again, and, like, this one was a lot less dramatic in the sense that it seemed like the pacemaker defibrillator did its job instantly and, he was back and regained consciousness fairly quickly, but they then called off that match. If if there is any inkling that he is gonna continue, I don't think he should be allowed to continue, 'cause at some point, it becomes unfair to his team, to the team he's playing, to the fans, that every time he's playing a match, there's a potential that this could happen and the game just gets canceled, postponed. I I understand and I feel super bad for him that he has this condition and he's still a great player and he can still contribute to the team, but at some point there has to be some sort of governance that says, like, we can't continue to have this happen for you, one, because maybe the defibrillator doesn't work one time, like, that would be a worst case scenario, but two, like, it's a pretty big disturbance, right?
Yes, so I guess his reading his personal statement that he released now that he got back home, he said that he wanted to let everyone know that I am doing well and that I am home with my family. As you can probably imagine, receiving a shock from my ICD has had a major impact on both me and my family, but I want to reassure everyone that this was a different situation from what happened in 2021. I am feeling good and my recovery has already started. In addition to being grateful for the support and assistance of all the players and medical team on the field, I'm also incredibly grateful to the doctors who have cared for me and my heart over the years. Thanks to their expertise, my ICD did exactly what it was designed to do, protect me when I needed it. For now, my focus is on recovering, spending time with my family, going on vacation, and playing football with my children. I suppose the implication of the going on vacation is
He's done.
that he's done. And he doesn't say in that making it back to football. So maybe even within that, there's an acceptance that this is basically a retirement. I have to be honest, I don't think I can watch Christian Eriksen play football again. Touching on what you said, I think it's kind of gross. Like it
And I
brought me
feel bad,
back.
I feel bad because like, I understand that you must be so competitive at that point that and you think you can still play, right? Like, I mean, there's no doubt he can still play. Like, he can still play. You're watching him still playing. Like, he can still compete. So it must be tough, but, yeah.
It must be, but like it gave me. We kind of all moved on from just how harrowing it was when he collapsed
Yeah.
during the Euros, and I
Rough.
remember seeing that and feeling physically sick as it was happening because it was the sort of processing the fact that I think I've just watched someone die was sort of where it came to be during that sort of weird moments when the game was suspended and people were surrounding him to stop the cameras from being able to see it. There is a moment where you say it's unfair on the people watching to possibly put them through, again, something really terrible.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Like, and I do feel bad, but I guess, he's had a good career. It's like his career is getting that much cut short, and I think this to me kind of feels a little bit obviously less severe, but a little bit like the Alex Smith situation where you had a player overcome some very gruesome on-field scenario. Alex Smith, it wasn't to the extent of Christian Eriksen, but still a pretty horrific injury that almost lost his leg and even worse. Um, Battled back, came back, showed he could still do it. Except I guess Alex Smith kind of then retired a little more on his own terms, came back a little, played a game or two, I think it was, and then kind of said, "Okay, I'm done now." But I think this could be a not the best send off, but at least I came back, I played well for another what, 2, 3 years almost? 2 years?
No, even longer,
Was it longer?
even longer. Yeah, because he was at Inter when that happened. Because remember, they wouldn't allow him to play in
That's right.
Serie A because of their rules, and then he went to Brentford, and then for a season, and then, well, part of a season as his recovery, and then he did, what, 3 seasons with Manchester
Yeah,
United, and then he's been with
you're right.
Wolfsburg, so 4 seasons, 4.5 seasons since it happened the first time, and yeah, it's a shame for him because the World Cup would have been the perfect send-off. in
Yeah,
terms of
and
you
maybe that
designed
was
your
the plan all along, right? Who knows?
possibly. But certainly if you're a player, you would eye a major tournament like that. To me, I mean, I think you're right with the Alex Smith comparison. It almost feels too like the Tua Tagovailoa situation where you're just watching someone get concussed every 6 weeks when they play, and there is that moment when it's like, I know this is your choice ultimately as to when you stop doing this, but as fans, it's a little unfair to put us in a situation where every time you get hit, there's a thought that we're watching your brain just get scrambled in front of us.
Yeah. And that was kind of like when we watched Alex Smith play again. I mean, part of you like almost couldn't watch because you literally look at his leg and it doesn't look like a normal leg anymore. And you just got so scared that something was going to happen again and so nervous. Um yeah, so yeah, it is a little unfortunate that this is the terms he goes out in because I think probably ending with the World Cup would have been a great cap to that. But I think it's pretty impressive that he was able to come back from that and still play as long as he did after everything that happened. And yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, it is testament to the quality of the technology, right? And I could understand
Science, huh?
if you're him, I could almost understand saying, I actually feel more comfortable now. Because it's one of those things, it's like being a football or a rugby player where you say you need that first hit to settle yourself down, and if you're him,
Well,
you're like
a little an extreme version of that, maybe.
if you're him, you're like, "I needed my heart to stop again to
I
really
need that
trust that
first shock.
this implant was gonna work." But yeah, probably the last we've seen of Christian Eriksen.
Maybe everyone should
And
get
in
one.
May maybe. Maybe he'll start pushing that. It'll be like, everything else we have now where you just privatize and push it on everyone. In other World Cup build-up news, a little bit of backlash going on towards the playing surfaces and playing conditions that some of these friendlies are taking even though I know that some of those they're not World Cup venues
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yeah.
So it's not as if it's a sign of what to come. But obviously England played in the Raymond James Stadium the other day, where the AstroTurf did not exactly look up to the standards that you would expect a football match to be played on. And I don't know if you also saw the issue with the scoreboard and the names on it and the number of errors that were made. Did you see any of this?
No, I didn't see this. No.
So England's starting lineup was put up on the scoreboard. In goal, number 1, Jordan Pickford. So that's correct. Then John Konsa, Mark O'Reilly, number 9, just Harry, no Kane, just Harry was
Like that.
playing.
I like that, Harry.
Number 11, Marcus
You're the wizard,
Stones.
Harry.
Number 14, Jordan Gahey. 16, 16, just Kobe. No Mainu, just first name again.
Well, I mean, that's in respect, I think, maybe to Kobe Bryant.
Yeah. 17, they mixed up obviously Morgan Rogers and Anderson and came out with Morgan Anderson for 17.
Was this just like did they just get this from an Excel that was like one row off, so everything's just like one row
Possibly.
shifted?
Someone's made a critical mistake, and with no one able to proofread this who knows what they were doing, and it just thought it looked okay. Number 19, Ollie Kane. Number 25, Jed Bellingham. And then number
Jed
26,
Je Jebediah Bellingham is a good one.
and then number 26, Jarrell Rashford.
Jarrell Rashford.
Yeah.
Where's the
So
Jarrell
no,
coming from?
you've put me on the spot there to think of, Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
so
You
yeah,
know what? With that random mashup, we could have potentially got the super unique name of Sam Jones. Who knows?
there it well, unfortunately, Jones is such a rare name that there's
Yeah.
no one in the England squad with the surname Jones at the moment, which
No.
is I
It
mean,
could have just been 2 first names.
it's to be believed because honestly, I think to myself, which one of these names is more common, Sam Jones or Noni Madueke? And it's definitely Noni Madueke is the more common name.
I've
Far
heard of a
less ex
billion Jebediah Bellinghams.
far less Samuel Jones, that exotic name. I can't even it's tough sometimes to even think of, like, where would I guess Samuel Jones could possibly be from? What ethnicity will he be when he shows up? I
Well,
don't
it's
know.
not the traditional spelling either.
No.
There's
Yeah.
so many spellings of Samuel Jones.
Yeah. But no, it's, and then also a little backlash in the Brazil match. I don't know if you saw that because again, AstroTurf pitches, they couldn't and they didn't bother to adjust this. The corner flags were not in the ground. They were little like on cones
Yeah,
as if you were playing like in PE and someone was setting up a small
I
football
like that.
pitch on not a great look.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, listen, if any league can take this and run with it, maybe the NFL can take it and say, "Oh, you think they're bad? We've been playing on this shit for years. Maybe this is time we get a change here."
Well, I don't NFL players have spoken about that.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
know.
if you saw, like Bosa was coming out and saying that he thought it was interesting to see FIFA insisting that they were playing on grass pitches and that teams were going to put grass pitches in place, but then take them away for the start of the NFL season. I think that is the interesting thing. Like, if you have to go through the investment of putting the grass pitch in place, why are you then going to remove it? And I know I know the ongoing maintenance is tough, and I know that these are multi-purpose venues, which is the big reason why they don't want to have them because they're going to have an NFL game on Sunday, but a Taylor Swift concert on Wednesday, and if the damage to the pitch that will be done if that isn't artificial is tremendous. So I get what the practicalities are, but it is fascinating to watch them go through, like jump through all the hoops to get them up to FIFA standards and then immediately abandon those standards.
Yep. Well, they need to do what the Cardinals do and have the retractable field that comes out of the stadium.
Yeah, which the Spurs stadium does too, right? Like I think that's the advantage if you build a new stadium now, but if you're talking about a 15-20-year-old stadium, that's a pretty big renovation. But yeah, we're only a couple of days away, and our next episode will be our big World Cup preview. So something to tune in for.
I've been doing some reading on ESPN, and they've been giving their predictions.
Boy,
I will say ESPN did the top 40 players, and not one USA player made the list. So unlike the Fox Sports list, the ESPN list was a little more believable. I guess I'll just use that word. I still didn't agree with everything on it, but it was a little better. It did not have Holland in the top 10, which I think is a little crazy.
uh, again, you just have to tell me what you're saying because if the idea
It
is
was n I it was very specific
impact,
in what it said too. I think that's what it was. I think it was impact. Let's see if I can it was the main criteria for this ranking is how much of an impact does a given player have on his team's chances of winning a given game?
well, then Holland should be pretty high. That's actually a really
Yes.
terrible set of criteria because you'd then have to really deeply look into like Curaçao's most important player might have way more impact on the outcome of their matches than Harry Kane. But I doubt that there's many of the analysts at ESPN who are capable of doing that assessment. So like that's where things maybe get a little tricky if those are the rules that you use.
He was right at the top 10. He was number 11. Holland was 11, Vinicius Jr. was 12, Bellingham was 13, Mbappe 14, Messi 15.
Give me the top 5. Let's see if anyone's objectionable there.
Dembele number 1, Yamal number 2, Olise number 3, Harry Kane number 4, Bruno Fernandes number 5.
It's a perfectly decent list of players likely to have the biggest impact. I don't think it's a good list based on the parameters that they set up of the idea of who has the most impact on their team. I don't think Dembele, I don't know why you can single out, and also you said it's Dembele and Olise in the top 5?
Dembele 1, Yamal 2, Olise 3, yeah.
Like,
So here's what it says right
how can you
underneath.
have
It
2 of
says
the top 5 play for the same team based on the conditions that they've set out? It doesn't really make a lot of
it's
sense.
right underneath. It says consider this tier a list of players who could slot into any team in the world, not require any adjustments across the rest of the roster, and conceivably be the best player on the team.
Okay. So that's completely different. That's 100% not the original description, and I don't even know if that's true. I think in terms of just slotting them in, I think Harry Kane would require most teams to slightly change the way they play because not a lot of teams play with that type of sort of traditional forward up front. So that's a tactical shift for pretty much every team in this World Cup. They'd be happy to make that adjustment, but they would have to make an adjustment.
So what they have at the end for Dembele is that basically Dembele joined PSG. He was a peripheral figure. When Mbappe left, he became the focal point of the attack. So why is Dembele the best soccer player in the world? Almost right away, PSG became the best soccer team in the world
All
once he
right, we can
became the
move on.
focal point.
we could just we could just move on from that one.
Well, I will say number 7 was Saliba, and I don't really like that. And Saka
Yeah.
number 9, Odegaard 10.
Well, we can just move on.
I think having Odegaard over Holland is a little crazy.
Yes. Now, don't know if you also saw final kind of World Cup buildup. Obviously, the USA played Germany in a
Almost beat him.
friendly.
Almost had him.
Yeah, I mean, almost drew. I don't know if they almost beat them, but they did the like NBA, NFL style player by player individual introductions. I don't know if you saw this. So,
No.
like starting at center back, number 7. Like they did all that stuff, or they only did it for the USA. They didn't do it for Germany. And the looks on the faces of the German players who are trying to figure out A, what the fuck is going on while it's happening, and then B, just being tremendously amused by the fact that it is happening. Like, and I actually think I'm sure they obviously won't do it during the World Cup because you have to do the same standards for both teams, but that's the type of thing where you think to yourself, you're actually harming yourselves because I'm sure there were some German players there who were happy just to go through the motions of a World Cup like a warm-up match where the only thing they want to do is not get injured, basically. But then if you sit through these sort of player-by-player introductions, you might go, like, well, fuck those guys. Now we really need to win this game because I'm not losing to the guys who did the full individual player announcements as if this is an NBA game.
Yeah, the US the US has not beaten a European side since 2021 in any format. Friendlies, anything. And that
Yeah,
was
and look,
Bosnia.
you could probably say that most of the European teams that the US has played since then are probably quite good.
You want me to read them off? I got them.
Go for it.
So it was Germany, and then oh, actually, no, there's probably a few more in between that because I'm looking at from April 1st, 2026. So I don't know if they played anyone besides Germany, but Portugal, Belgium, Switzerland, Turkey, Slovenia, Germany, Serbia, Netherlands, England, Wales.
I mean, those are all decent. Like, there's no minnows in that, right? I mean, you would say there's a few there that you would expect. I mean, here's the reality is, I don't think there's a team there that you said that is objectively worse than the United States. I think there's a few teams there where the US and that team are probably on a pretty similar level, but maybe where you would expect neutral venue, the US to have an edge. But that obviously the expectations set by American soccer fans would be that they beat and compete with a lot of those teams. But the reality is that the US against Wales is a pretty
Tied them 1-1.
fair, and that sounds fair.
That was in the World Cup.
There's probably the same number of players in those teams who are playing reasonably important parts on sort of in Big 5 leagues. You give, I suppose, the US the edge a little bit in terms of star power, but, you know, not a huge difference there in terms of actually sort of strength of the best 11.
The best match they probably had in that entire losing or non-winning streak was England in the World Cup.
Yeah, okay, well, group games come with a little bit of an asterisk as well.
I did also see, speaking of like the comedy of the US in the World Cup, I saw some posts about them like learning some of the European chants and trying to incorporate them in. Did you see that? Some of the videos of that? I thought you would definitely get amused by those.
Look, we discussed this when the Ryder
Every
Cup
episode.
no, but, like, when the Ryder Cup was come around, and just the US just has to accept not in their culture. There's a lot of stuff that US sports fans do extremely well, and reasons why US sports culture is better in a lot of aspects than European sports culture might be. But the chanting is not one of them, and just accept that and move on, like, because the rest of the world, because this is why I think it's so embarrassing for Arsenal that they have that stupid North London, like, "These streets are our own," or whatever that dumb song is that they sing now all the time, which was written, 3.5 years ago. That's so American to be sort of trying to create your club culture and to have it not occur even reasonably organically. And there's something kinda icky, I think, for as a European football fan, where most of the time we're talking about traditions that are in the very least decades old, but sometimes more than a century old. And to manufacture that in 2022 doesn't feel right. And that's my problem with the Arsenal thing is that's a bunch of, that's Arsenal as a club and Arsenal supporters being like, "We're really jealous that Liverpool fans sing 'You'll Never Walk Alone,' and we wanna have our own thing." And maybe if we'd been recording this podcast in 1961, whenever Liverpool started doing the "You Never Walk Alone" over the tannoy, then I would be making exactly the same comment. But if you've been doing it for a few decades, I'm not going to make fun of it. Whereas when it feels like you've really consciously thought about it, it's just a little icky.
All right, what do you got next? What's the next topic?
Well, that probably wraps up all the World Cup talk, obviously, until we do our full World Cup preview. We'll do a quick cricket chat, though. Don't know if you saw that England cricket, the England cricket team beat New Zealand in the opening test of the summer at the weekend on a pitch at Lord's, which was probably not up to the standards that international cricket needs to have pitches on. So wasn't a great spectacle from that perspective, but still a good win for England against New Zealand, a good test side. But on Sunday night after their victory, Ben Stokes and Gus Atkinson got in trouble at a nightclub in what has been described as an incident in the early hours of Monday morning. Now, this is obviously an England team that's had a number of partying and drinking issues over the last few years. Ben Stokes has had quite a few just by himself. And England have put in place a midnight curfew during tours and when matches are going on. So both Ben Stokes and Gus Atkinson are going to be investigated and in all likelihood punished in one way or another. And I think the likely outcome is that Ben Stokes will lose the England captaincy because I think his position now is untenable given the fact that he has a history of prior issues, plus everything that happened to England over the last Ashes, and plus in the tour of New Zealand and the build up to it. I do not think Ben Stokes will captain this England side again.
Yeah, it's a tough look. I did you see the quote that also just makes it a really tough look for Ben Stokes, which I know some people probably appreciated the quote, but I think in light of everything that's gone on recently, the quote was after they won, Stokes said, "I'm not going to lie. I'm very, very happy we won this week. I know how big this was, this game in terms of result and how it was going to be perceived externally if it didn't go well. I won't be really happy until I get to share a beer with the boys." Like, I get that is kind of a, like, tongue-in-cheek throwaway kind of quote, but, like,
No, I mean, he was
it
probably
doesn't.
genuine, and
Yeah,
and
he
it is
was, but that
normal.
doesn't look good, right? Like, 8
Well,
hours after that quote.
no, exactly. I mean, here's the thing is I think everyone knows that after you finish a test match, they're gonna sit and have some beers, and that's perfectly fine. Like, there were clips of the England team going back out onto the balcony overlooking the pitch with beers in their hands. No one says a word about that. That's fine. But there's a difference between some beers after the match and then still being on the beers at whatever it was, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. I think that's a slight difference. And problem is, maybe they weren't, who knows what the incident was. Maybe they weren't at fault for anything, but it's just especially for Ben Stokes. You just have to, and when you've given him the important position, being the captain of England at cricket is a pretty important sporting position to hold. To not have the common sense of, you know what? I would love to keep having a few more beers, but we've had some issues in the past few months. So you know what? I'm going to go home and do the sensible thing. And the thing is we always talk about professional athletes too. There are even solutions to this. Like if you just wanted to keep having some beers, go back to either one of your homes or your hotel room and just have some beers there. And yeah, okay, maybe it's not as fun and as wild at being at a bar or a club, but
It's boring.
just do that. And you can't get yourself in trouble. It's like calling yourself the Uber when you've had a couple too many drinks and you're an NFL player. Like, I know it'd be fun to drive the Lamborghini home at 150 miles an hour, but maybe, just maybe, call the
Yeah.
Uber and go get picked up by a Toyota Prius.
Well, the issue I have, this is a kind of an issue I have with England on the whole, is it's really hard to find out what actually happened. Like, England media as a whole always does a really good job of, like,
Well, there's
not
laws, yeah,
releasing
and we
story
we kind of
details, you know
respect
what I
we
mean?
respect some of the privacy laws until people have actually been found guilty of things,
Yeah,
or at
which
least
is
try
fucking
to.
annoying, like, if it were in America, TMZ would have been on that shit 5 minutes after it happened, you would have known what happened.
Well, I think the other thing too is the reason why TMZ wouldn't be on that shit is because as prestigious of a position as it is to be England captain, Ben Stokes and in particular Gus Atkinson are not exactly
I'm
I mean,
sure that would've
Stokes
come on,
is.
TMZ does, like yeah. You would know what
Atkinson's
happened in the US.
Atkinson's gotta be pissed off because in reality, he's probably said afterwards, like, "If fucking Ben Stokes hadn't been with me, no one knows who I am. So I'm there's no way I get in trouble. But because I've like, got one of the 5 easily recognizable England cricketers, this is
Yeah,
why I've got an issue."
yeah.
Alright, we'll move on to see what else I've got lined up for us. I did take a quick note of a rugby player who's making waves in South Africa. I think he's 16 years old. He is 6'7"
Okay,
and
so, like, 3 inches
100
taller than me.
140 kilos. And I say this looking at a picture of him. I mean, I would imagine his body fat percentage is not super high. This is not just a really fat kid who's gonna dominate youth sports because he's running over people a fraction of his size, but when he goes up against a quote unquote real man, then things could be an issue. He looks at his age already, I think if there's a few professional rugby players who would not want to be tackling him. So that's an interesting one.
That's crazy. Does he play is he playing for, like, the national team?
He's playing youth. Yeah, he's 6'9". I take it back. 6'9", 140 kilos.
Oh, so he's a little bit taller than I am.
Just a little bit.
That's enormous for a 16-year-old. It's like every once in a while you see those players that, like, Alabama's recruiting for offensive tackle that at age, like, 14 are, like, 6'8", 350, and he's like, "How is that possible? How is that kid 15 years old?"
But the final bit of World Cup news, actually, Esteval, the Chelsea player and Brazilian player who's been past fit to play for Brazil, but was injured for most of this season for Chelsea. He went back to Brazil and saw some faith healers and then has been given the all clear by the Brazilian medical team.
Nice.
And he has been speaking in local churches in Brazil before the team left for the World Cup, saying that there is no injury there anymore and that a miracle occurred.
Yeah, suck on that, Alex Smith.
Yeah. Which reminded me of the quote, Jordan Shaqiri, the Swiss player, similar height to you, so he was always a favorite of yours. He,
I did love Shaqiri. He was one of my
he
favorite players.
he once had a quote speaking about, when he was being managed, and he said, "One time I was injured at Inter, and, Mancini sent me to a miraculous healer in the mountains. Didn't help me at all. At And this was when he was at Stoke. He said, "At Stoke, we've got 7 physios."
We hurt him more having to climb the mountain.
Also true. They probably had to have his own backpack on too, which is probably the size of his body.
Great legs on him, though.
'cause of the mountain healing.
Yeah, probably. Those calves are mountain calves.
All right. I think sporting wise, I mean, we can make mention of the fact that the New York Knicks are 2 up in the NBA finals, and Wembanyama had some pretty critical mistakes down the stretch of the end of game 2
Yeah.
and seems to be having a mental breakdown in front of us all. I mean, his post-game press conferences are a rough watch.
Yeah, that was I don't yeah, I don't know what he was doing there. It was a really weird play. The play obviously referencing when he passed the ball to his teammate who had his back completely turned to him and was running up the court. Um,
Yeah, so for listeners, he got a rebound. They
I'm
were
sure
winning
everyone's
by
seen it.
well, I mean, some of our listeners won't watch any NBA games, right? But just to kind of paint the picture slightly, but they were it was a tied game.
Either
They
tied or
got
they
the
were still
rebound.
winning.
No, I think it was a tied game and they got the rebound and with like 15 seconds left. So it's
It was
basically a
tied,
scenario. Yeah, because then he fouled and
and then
but
he
he only
only
made
hit 1
Brunson
free
only made
throw.
one of the free
Yeah,
throw.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely was tied.
Kind of a scenario where if you're watching an NBA game and you pick up a rebound with under 24 seconds left, it's well, we won't lose this in regular time. Like this is either we're winning it or it's overtime. And this was hey, how about we mix this up? How about instead I throw the ball into my teammate's back and then foul the player who recovers the steal and
Yeah.
then miss the potential game winner slightly later as well.
And didn't really need to hurry it. It wasn't as if, like, he was being pressured and kinda just, like, threw it away. Because I mean, obviously, he would've just been fouled anyway, so what's the difference? But, like, it was seemingly just out of nowhere. I
Yeah, just
didn't yeah,
panicked.
it was rough
And
look.
it's funny too, right? Because you could again give a pass if that's a traditional center with 0 ball handling skills who suddenly finds himself in that big moment and thinks, I do not want this. Like, I am the one player on the court who is not supposed to have the ball in this situation. Then I think you can be pretty forgiving when they make that mistake. And whilst Wembanyama is still their center, he does sometimes bring the ball up court. His ball handling skills are pretty decent. So I don't think anyone else on the Spurs team would have been panicking because he had it, nor should he be panicking because he has it either. And so really terrible mistake. One of those things that you feel sorry for him because he has to now probably win like 2 or 3 NBA titles for that moment to be kind of forgotten.
Well, who knows? If the Knicks sweep, maybe it'll be forgotten because people think they had no chance anyway. But, I mean, Knicks did win 2 in San Antonio, right?
I think game 2 is such a critical game down 0-1 that regardless the only way this is forgotten now is if the Spurs come back and win the series. But even if it's a sweep, I think people will still say like, "But it should have been 1-1." And if it had been 1-1 heading to New York, then it's a completely different looking series.
Yeah. That was like a stat I think I'm gonna slightly butcher this because I don't remember specifically, but it was, um, for the NFL and of Jesus Christ, I already butchered it. The NHL Stanley Cup, it was I don't know why I said NFL. For the Stanley Cup, if it was tied 1-1, the team who won game 3 ended up winning the series, I think it was like 73% of the time. So, like, game 3, super critical. Uh, and I think I kinda agree with you. If you're up 1-0, winning that game 2 to go up 2-0 is probably you're probably winning 70 to 80% of the time at least.
Yeah, I mean, we are shit on Bill Simmons. One of the few things he likes to do that actually makes a little bit of sense is when you're talking about 7-game series is well, now you gotta win 4 out of 5. He loves to emphasize that point, or now you only have to win 1 out of 4. And he sometimes overuses that particular stat. But it is an interesting the fact that you now have a series where the Knicks just need to win 2 out of what is it?
5.
2 out of 5
Yeah.
doesn't sound so hard. You can have a losing record in the remainder of the series and be okay. Whereas for the Spurs,
Especially
you're
when
walking
momentum doesn't exist.
true. And home court advantage doesn't exist either.
Yeah. Speaking of Bill Simmons, I want we should have brought this up with the World Cup. Did you hear the little segment he had at the one of the end of his episodes recently with I don't know who it was that came on. I didn't recognize the voice, but they started talking about the World Cup. Oof. It was a rough listen. I just listened to it because I was trying to pick out points where I was like, Oh, Eddie's gonna hate what he just said there.
It's a skip for me immediately once he starts talking about football. And this is the tough thing actually, and look,
Soccer.
there may be yeah,
He
there may be
refuses to call
listeners.
football.
I don't mind that because I do get, like, if you predominantly speak about the NFL, that it is a little bit confusing to someone to be listening and to be talking
But
about
I think if you're
football, and
talking World Cup, you have to switch it to football.
I don't I'm not personally, I'm not one of those people because there are people in England who call it soccer. This myth that this is an Americanism, it's not true. You can meet people in England who will say soccer. They are in the minority, but it does happen. It doesn't it doesn't bother me that much. We don't call out like, Australians call it soccer a lot. We don't call out Australians with nearly the same ferocity and that we do Americans. So, like, I'm okay with saying soccer, but I'm not okay with listening to someone who never watches that sport at all doing a real preview and trying to come up with questions. Like, that to me is a stay in your lane moment of if you're really not watching, you don't there's no point in you doing a little bit of NFL, a little bit of World Cup coverage just because you maybe watched the last World Cup final and you watched one random Premier League match because you were on an airplane this season. Like, that just and be and because 20 years ago, you wrote a column where you claimed that you might start supporting a Premier League team, and so you've still always occasionally looked at the Spurs scores.
Anything else
Alright.
sports related?
I don't think so. I think that's I I did there's a mild horse racing topic, but I know we will do a little bit of Royal Ascot talk ahead of us going there. Um, and equally, we may have a guest on to discuss some of that too. So I don't wanna I don't wanna remove that one interesting talking point that I have before we dedicate a little
Is
bit
it
more
Aidan
time.
O'Brien, another classic winner?
It is. But we've required he takes sunglasses off. Now, travel, I know you've done a little bit of travel. I was on my
I
train back
have.
from Nice on Thursday. Relatively smooth. However, the person sitting next to me, he had those headphones on that don't go in your ear. They play the sort of vibration through the outside of your ear. I don't know if you ever see these.
No.
So they every time I see someone on them, I question whether or not it's some kind of hearing aid related thing. It puts me in a very awkward position of, are those headphones or are you deaf? And I just err on the side of caution and assume that the person is deaf. That he was not deaf. He was taking them on and off, and they were clearly headphones. I see them a little bit because at my sports club, people use them to swim with because you can put them on and it will play the vibrations basically through the bones in your ears, so you can still hear things in that scenario. Conceptually, I guess, cool, and I'm probably sure this guy was wearing them because if I'd asked him, he would say, "Way better for your ears," because actually sticking things in your ears, it's terrible. You're just damaging your earbuds, like problem with this is, me sitting next to him, I can just hear everything that he's. Because at first I thought that maybe I was gonna tell him, I was like, "Can you turn the sounds off on your phone?" He was playing a game. He was and I could hear the, like,
Ding, 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 ding.
pew, pew,
Yeah.
pew, like, I could hear all that shit, but, like, not that loudly, but loudly enough to be kind of annoying, and so I sort of gave him a couple of glances, thinking that his phone wasn't completely on silent, and
Never
then
seen these before, or
and then
heard
I
them, I guess I
realized,
should say.
like, the reason why he's unaware of the fact that it will be bothering me is because he has these dumb earphones in. And so he doesn't know that I can hear it because he's hearing it but thinks it's contained sound. But actually, of course, I can hear it because I'm a foot away from one of these things that is putting mute, like sending the sound through the outside of his ear.
Maybe he just needs a friend to let him know that those are shitty headphones for traveling.
Yeah. I mean, look, if I traveled with you, I would 100% be like, Frank, fucking annoying. He
And I'd be
didn't
like,
strike
"What?
me.
Can't hear you.
These things are awesome.
Can't hear you. What?"
He didn't strike me as someone who maybe travels with friends a lot. I'll say that much about him, which I think the headphones are an immediate giveaway that that is probably the case.
Yeah, I don't have many travel stories this time. I mean, pretty uneventful. I saw some good camaraderie on the plane. There were 2 people who had a connection in 15 minutes, and, the the like message got sent all the way up the plane so that these two people kind of just kept moving through everyone as they, were moving up the rows before they even opened up the door. So as soon as they opened up the door, they were the first ones out. It was surprising because the two people were like, they were defeated instantly. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, people aren't going to move. People aren't going to move. And this one random guy who didn't know them was like, no, we're going to get it to happen. Don't worry. We're going to get it. And he was like screaming down the plane, be like, these people gotta go. They gotta go. And then I guess like enough people heard that there wasn't any of the like when people get grumpy that someone's pushing their way through, which I would say the majority of the time, it always is someone trying to catch a connection, whether they have 15 minutes or 45 and they're just annoying because they think 45 minutes isn't enough. It's I've only seen once or twice the person who just pushes through because they're that annoying, and they just want to be they're just an asshole and think that they're like the center of the world. There's usually always a reason, but there was no one that gave them any pushback, which is a little surprising. So that was the only really plain story I had. I watched, um, I didn't even watch a movie on. It was only a 2-hour flight both ways, so I didn't even watch. I just watched a new TV show that we can discuss if you want.
Yeah. Travel wise, nothing. I do have a road rage incident to catch listeners up on. So,
On your
travel, I have an
Fiat?
update. Last episode, I did talk about the hotel incident and the water being out, and I said that I was going to make mention of the complaint, which in the end I did not check out. I didn't go to the front desk to check out. I just did the online checkout. But then when
What
they
a whip.
sent me the email for, hey, give us feedback,
Yeah,
I wrote in that, don't like complaining about hotels, but this really sucked, this bit of water being out at a really critical time.
ruined my
They
trip.
gave they did give me something back. They gave me a whopping 10,000 Hilton points, which
Which will get
can
you like 1/8 of a night of a room.
it could probably get me 1/3 of a night of a room in a Hampton Inn in like the middle of nowhere. So if that
Yeah.
happens to be on my itinerary anytime soon, those 10,000 points will really come in handy. But other than that, no, not really moving the needle. But yes, road rage. So today I was driving along in the afternoon, nice sunny day, enjoying myself,
Driving along in
and
what?
in
Just
my
remind our
Fiat Topolino,
listeners.
just me and my dog next to me,
So
driving
completely
along.
full car.
Yeah, and guy was parked along the side of the street and should have just waited for me to pass. There was no one behind me, but I was way too close for him to decide that was when he was going to make his maneuver. But I think he eyed up my car and decided that he was going to move in front of me.
Love
And
it.
I gave him what, again, for me, it was a couple friendly little toots on the horn. Just, hey, don't do that. I saw you. But at the same time, I don't really care. It's not changing my day. He did not like this. So he brake checked me immediately, which was we were going quite slowly. So that was kind of a pointless move. And then when we came up to a set of traffic lights, this is on a one-way road. But when we came up to a set of traffic lights, probably 30 meters later, he kind of pulled off to the side as if he was going to turn right, but then stopped there and then was kind of gesticulating at me through the car. I gave him a thumbs up, light turned green, and I just drove along.
What, you sped off?
I went speed limit. Again, I'm going to rub in he followed me. I think he was probably going the same way as me anyway. So I parked probably a kilometer later with one turn as part of that kilometer. And when I parked, he came alongside me and then stopped in the middle of traffic and then started angrily he pulled his window down and was yelling at me. I could hear him because my windows are not exactly soundproof, but I was just giving him some thumbs up. And then only embarrassing moment for me, he did the wind your window down, not knowing that my windows do not wind down. They pop out.
Did you pop it out? Tell me you
Yeah, because
popped it out.
so then it was amusing for me to pop it out. So then I popped it out. And then he went for the very ambitious, tried to spit on me. But now if you
Spit on you or on
imagine
the car?
unclear, but I think it's for me on me. I mean, that is why he had asked me to wind my window down. Is the beats of his story became clear. But he's on his driver's seat, separated by the passenger seat to me. So he's going for a 6-foot spit to try and get
Yeah.
me.
That's a
All
spit.
he did, it's ambitious. I mean, you gotta really know you got that in you to even attempt it. Like, that's Steph Curry pulling up
Yeah.
from the logo move.
And plus, not only that, you have to be able to get the trajectory right so that you can get it
Yes.
out of yours, but not get it through the window, but then towards the arc on that has to be perfect.
Yes. And then factoring in the fact that all my windows do are slightly pop up below head level, so, like, worst case scenario, the risk reward for him didn't look good, and it didn't work well because all he ended up doing was just spitting on his passenger seat. So that's all
Did
he
you
managed
thumbs
to
up that
achieve.
as well?
Gave him a thumbs up, and then he drove off. But it was like I did very little in it, but felt like the winner, that's always a bonus.
That's so funny. That's a good one. The Fiat Topolino, angering people every day.
It's a mixture. The one thing that is nice about there's obviously quite a few around me. It's a little bit like driving like a VW Bug or one of those things when you pass someone else driving it. You either get a little gesture or sometimes a little honk at you to say hello because you're both in the same car, which is always interesting for me because usually that's a 16-year-old kid and then it's me and the other one. So it's like a 16-year-old kid being like, "Oh, hey, man." And then as they approach closer, you're like, "Oh my God, that's a full grown person." But uh, yeah.
That's funny.
So what was your new TV show?
On Netflix, I started watching Legends. I don't know if you've seen this or started it yet. It's about the heroin importation in England in the 1990s, and I think it's loosely based on a true story about the custom agents who were kinda tasked with getting to the bottom of who was importing it and trying to stop the imports because it was becoming such an issue in England, and basically that they had no money, no resources, and no real training to do it. So far, it's very good. I've watched 2.5 episodes. I think there's only 6, so kind of a limited series, but through 2.5, pretty good. It goes pretty quickly. I think they're like hour episodes, but um, Steve Coogan is in it. He's one of the main
Okay.
guys, but playing a serious character. And then I cannot think of his name. He was in the Lazarus Project. I don't think you watched that, but that was like a
Did
time
not.
travel English show. Uh, he was in that. He was one of the guys in that as well. But yeah, pretty good. And obviously been watching Widow's Bay.
Yeah, so I'll have the payoff. Obviously, I watched the subsequent episode, and you told me, yes, the history episode makes sense because of what happens in the second episode. And yeah, I'll agree with you that obviously there's a
Spoiler
carryover
alert.
character. No, no spoiler, but
Yes,
a character that
a
appears in the
literal
history episode
carryover.
could have been achieved through 4 minutes of flashbacks.
Unless they keep going flashing back, who knows? Because there is now
And this is
hints that another character from that flashback will play an important role moving forward.
yes. And this is the only thing I will say. This is a show that feels like it's one excellent season.
Yeah, I don't know
And
how
that
they're gonna keep this going.
yeah, and that I'm sure it will still be good in season 2, but we're gonna see a little bit of a drop off, and that if they were smart and it's tough because it's a big hit and everyone's praising it, so how do you walk away from that? But realistically, this was a good one and done, nice little kind of not even a mini series because 'cause they're gonna do whatever it is, 10 episodes but that should be it. The story should be done. There should be a resolution in series 1, and then we all move on.
Unless they already had a pretty good plan for, like, what a season 2 would be, because it seems like they're kind of wrapping up some of the why is Widow's Bay haunted or having issues. So unless they have like a clear, like, we'll do this part of it, but then we're going to introduce the real reason in the later half of the episodes, and that will then be season two. Like it could, they have to have a good plan. I think a lot of times shows put everything out in season one because they don't know what's going to happen. And then people love it, but then they've got nothing left for the next season. So hopefully they've kind of planned ahead a little, knowing maybe it would be a pretty good hit. But I mean, the last episode was another really good episode. I thought like they do such a good job of like kind of like paying homage to like classic horror and classic horror tropes, but then also doing the thing where it's like, if you were in that horror movie, what would you have done differently? You know, like, and they kind of like call that out directly in this episode with like with like I guess we'll do light spoilers, but like the way that the woman handles it at the very end of like not leaving the
Pursuit.
scene, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. How, like, she
Yeah.
stays with him at the entire time, like, that was kinda funny, like, I think that's what everyone says watching a horror movie, like, if there's a bad guy, why do you ever, like, stop watching the bad guy and, like, not be ready for an escape or, like, a a jump up or something, you know, like, always have eyes on him. So I think that's, like, kinda like, they do a really good job. It's funny and scary, but then also, like, paying respect to, like, the classics.
No, it's really good, and I'll happily watch season 2. I'm not gonna bow out here, but I have a degree of hesitancy that this feels like, and if they tell me there's a season 3, then I'm gonna really have an issue because it does, does seem to be a shelf life as to how long you can drag some of the narratives on without it evolving into just a completely different show, which I'm maybe not opposed to, but then that would feel a bit bizarre. A show that doesn't have that problem is From, because next season is the last season. Season 5 is the conclusion. And we know for sure that they planned that from the beginning because Harold Perrineau, the
Main character.
fundamentally the main character in From, but who was in Lost, he said he would not do the show unless the showrunners told him the ending of this because he didn't want to have another Lost on his hands. So he was told he's
Guy.
told the ending and the major plot points before the show even began. One final
Well,
note, just to kind of
I was to
say
say
the
real
mood.
quick, because you keep mentioning From, I am getting more From clips on Instagram than I have ever before.
I know that's not how it works.
I'm getting so many From clips.
Look, people love the show. The subreddit is fascinating to read sometimes. But I was going to say, obviously, we got a World Cup preview coming out. The World Cup starting uh, soon. I mean,
Thursday.
this week,
Thursday.
and we're last got a week away from starting as well.
Next
Neither
Tuesday.
of those things feel like we're about to be there. It's this very bizarre thing. Both of those feel far away. I think there's reasons with the World Cup where there's maybe not quite the same anticipation for this one as there have been for past years. And I know that I will be fully into it once it starts, but it doesn't feel to me like it's kicking off on Thursday. And I think the one thing I will say is that's reflected a little bit, certainly in my friends group. I'm not getting text messages from people being like, where are you watching the opening game? Or, oh, this Saturday, are we going to watch like this game or that game? Getting none of those messages yet. I'm sure they'll start once the tournament's underway, but that bit's a little bit surprising.
Well, the opening game is Mexico, South Africa, so
Yeah, but I mean, I
oh,
think I've
opening
watched
ceremonies. I hear you. Oh, I see what you're thinking.
I mean,
I
I think
see what
I've
you're
watched
thinking.
I think World Cup opening matches have been quite memorable in the past because it's always a nice thing. You have the host nation element. It used to be the defending champions, then they switched to the host nation, but like it kind of ensures that you've got passion in the stadium, real intensity there. I can very clearly remember watching certainly in the 2010 World Cup, the opening match. Same with Russia's opening match. I can remember quite clearly. Um, 2014 with Brazil. All of those all stick out in my mind pretty well. So normally, I'm not going to watch every game. So the opening match got more interested in that than quite a lot of the other group games that will take place over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and the opening game, like I said, is Mexico, South Africa, and that's taking place at 3 p.m. Eastern, which would be 9 p.m. for you. So not a terrible time. You could watch it.
No, it's perfect. Well, look, I'll stay up to watch all of them, basically. I mean, I won't say all of them.
I don't
There's
know about
some,
the next one's 9 p.m. my time, which would be 7 hours later. So that would be 3 a.m. your time.
but what's the game?
And that's South Korea, Czech Republic. Probably a better
I could
game.
probably give that one a miss. I could spend on a Thursday. But like, I'm not opposed to staying up for some of the like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. games if necessary. But yeah, if it's Qatar against Switzerland, then I'm probably not tuning in. And yeah,
then
Royal
Friday
Ascot
night is the
feels,
opening USA match. So
yeah, Royal Ascot does not feel like we are
no, 1 week away.
8 days away from that starting.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right. Well, with that, anything else?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
All right. We'll call it a day.
Sounds good.
Talk to you later.
See ya.
Cheerio.